What up, y'all? This is Tracy from Nerd Squish, and today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite movies to watch on Halloween. Alright, y'all, All Hallows Eve 2022 is upon us, and you know what that means? We gotta get our spooky movies lined up for Halloween night. The perfect Halloween night movie can be many things. It could be terrifying horror, slashers. It could be a comedy. It could be a Disney movie. There are so many good movies to watch on Halloween, and I'm just gonna give y'all some recommendations of the ones that I personally like to watch. Now, I don't really think any of these are gonna be like revolutionary, like, oh my god, I've never heard of this movie. Movies. Look, it's gonna be a basic list. But, you know, sometimes for Halloween, you gotta stick to the classics. To all my returning viewers, welcome back, nerds. And if you're new here, this is Nerd Squish, where we take everything spooky and we take everything nerdy and we squish it all together. So if you like Halloween, horror, and pop culture, definitely hit that subscribe button so you can see more videos from us in the future. We're gonna kick off these recommendations with the Halloween movie essentials. I mean, I'm talking, you know, this is a no-brainer. If you're not watching these movies on Halloween, what are you even doing with your life? First up, we have John Carpenter's 1978 classic, Halloween. You can't go wrong with the boogeyman, you know what I'm saying? Michael Myers is Halloween. There's no way you're thinking about this holiday and not picturing that William Shatner mask terrifying you in the middle of the night. I mean, it's a classic. But if you're bored with seeing that movie time and time again, because you know we've all seen it over and over and over again, my other favorites from the franchise are Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Something about this one, I don't know. I don't know if it's Little Jamie, what it is, but this one just definitely feels more Halloween-y than some of the other sequels. Yes, I said Halloween-y. And I'm also a huge fan of the 2018 sequel to the original. This movie it's perfect Halloween vibes, and it's Michael Myers, to me, at his very best. In all three of these movies, they take everything that we love about the holiday season and Michael Myers himself. We have trick-or-treaters running through the streets collecting their candy, and the Shape right behind wielding that knife ready to go. Even though this next movie is a little bit newer, I think it is an essential to watch every Halloween, and that would be none other than 2007's Trick or Treat. This movie, if you're not familiar with it, is sort of like an anthology movie following different people on Halloween night and the mischief that they get into. The one thing that unites them all is Sam, this little Halloween goblin that makes sure that you follow the rules of Halloween. And this movie, it's just got all the feelings of Halloween. It's got the candy and the costumes and the mayhem and the mischief, and I love it. And Sam is adorable. I mean, I know he's like kind of evil. I mean, I'd be okay because you don't see me, blowing out pumpkins before Halloween's over. I ain't doing it. But it's essential. It's just, and the werewolf scene, you knew I was gonna mention it because I be loving werewolves over here. But that werewolf scene, first of all, I didn't see it coming when I first saw this movie, but it is one of the coolest scenes in this movie. And I also really want to be that little kid that has the house just full of carved pumpkins. That's goals, honestly. Now, this recommendation list would not be complete without some family-friendly movies. Whether you're watching these because you have kids and you want to watch something with them that's a little spooky but not too spooky, or you're just, old and nostalgic like me, these are some of my favorite kid-friendly movies to watch during spooky season. Of course, we have to mention the Disney Halloween movies, such as Hocus Pocus, which, I mean, who doesn't know what Hocus Pocus is? With the Sanderson sisters and trying to eat the children, it's a classic. It's chef's kiss. Perfect movie. I also really, really love Halloween Town. I mean, this movie, I want to live in Halloween Town. You have young Marnie who loves all things Halloween. Her mom doesn't want her to be involved in any of it because they're witches. And they go to the beautiful town of Halloween Town where her grandmother lives, and they see every monster and Halloween thing that could possibly exist. And what kid was watching this and wasn't like, I need to live there? Like, can I get a real estate agent? Still actively trying to live there. It's beautiful. And I really just want to be Aggie Cromwell when I grow up. Does grow up apply when you're 33? When I become an wise older woman, I want to be Aggie Cromwell. I just want to live my best witchy life, teach people how to fly, use their magic, and also just give people inspiration and spookiness to their lives with quotes like, magic is really very simple. All you've got to do is want something and then let yourself have it. Is anybody else crying? I am. What you're gonna cry about is my next family-friendly movie recommendation, and that is Casper. This is, I mean, look, if you're a 90s kid, you grew up with this movie and it's an essential, and you will also flood your house with your tears because I don't think I know anybody that this movie doesn't emotionally affect. First of all, this movie is beautiful. The set design, this mansion that they're living in. I mean, come on, it's the same mansion that they filmed Everybody. Okay, I'm not gonna sing or dance because that'll make you cry because it's so terrible. But this movie's great. It's great. It's got young Christina Ricci, and for the Monty Python fans, it's got your boy Eric Idle, which I'm always excited to see him. But this movie's beautiful. It's got everything. It's got feels. It's got humor. It's got some little spooky parts. It is amazing. Now, what's spooky season without Scooby-Doo? And my absolute favorite Scooby-Doo movie is Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. I feel like I just said Scooby-Doo a lot. Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo. I love this movie. Now, is it because it takes place in Louisiana and I'm a Louisiana girl? Maybe. But this one is just so perfect. The Mystery Inc. gang goes to a bayou island to do more research on this plantation and Captain Morgan Moonscar. And it's just perfect. It's got zombies, it's got werecats, and it has Scooby and Shaggy overdosing on hot sauce. What more could you possibly want? One Disney kids movie that gets severely overlooked and is severely underrated is none other than my favorite, Under Wraps. I love this movie. Not only that, but it was the very first Disney Channel original movie. This movie started it all. This movie is everything to me. It's, first of all, it starts off kind of terrifying. Like, I didn't really realize how scary it was until I watched it, like, more recently, and I was like, oh, this opening scene is actually nightmare fuel. But it's about these kids that, you know, they live in this neighborhood where they have this scary neighbor that everybody's terrified of, and they go into his basement and they find a mummy that's, like, alive, and they become friends with him because, I mean, when you find a mummy that comes to life, that's what I would do. Another great kid-friendly movie is, of course, The Monster Squad. The Monster Squad follows these kids that love monsters and form this little monster group, and they end up fighting all of the classic monsters. I'm talking Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, and Wolfman. And yes, the Wolfman has nards. This movie has everything you could possibly want. It's got the 80s vibes, the humor, and like a Frankenstein that'll make you cry. Honestly, I still haven't emotionally recovered from Frankenstein. Justice for Frankie. Now, some of the biggest icons of horror and Halloween are, of course, the slashers from our favorite movies. Of course, you have Ghostface and Scream. Scream is a 90s classic whodunit movie that keeps you guessing until the very end. And I love it. And especially, I feel like this year, it has had a major resurge in popularity. One of my favorite slashers, and terribly underrated, is none other than Victor from the Hatchet series. I love the Hatchet movies. And I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Tracy, it's New Orleans, Louisiana horror. Of course you like it. Look, it's good. Okay. Hatchet follows these guys that go to New Orleans and they're like, ooh, let's go on a haunted swamp tour. And of course they go on this tour and, you know, things don't go according to plan. And they hear these eerie screams and stuff happening in the swamp, and that's where they learn of the legend of Victor Crowley. Now, The origin story of Victor Crowley is perfect for Halloween because he was this kid that lived in the swamp with his dad, and he was deformed, so, you know, he didn't get out much, and kids would play pranks and stuff on him. So on Halloween night, they throw a bunch of fireworks at his house. Well, the house catches on fire. He burns up. And now, the spirit of Victor Crowley haunts the swamps. If you don't like ridiculous, over-the-top gore, this one's probably not for you. But on the flip side of that, this has so much comedy in it that honestly, before you can get too grossed out, you're just dying laughing, like side-splitting laughs, because Adam Green, like, he did it big with this movie. And not only that, but there's 4 to the franchise. You have Hatchet 1, Hatchet 2, Hatchet 3, and of course, the latest in the franchise, Victor Crowley. One of my absolute horror movies of all time is Poltergeist. This 1982 movie is a perfect watch for Halloween night. I mean, it's a haunted house with malevolent ghosts and spirits. What's not to love here? Who, as a kid, did not, in the middle of the night, have the TV turn to static and just lose their mind with terror? So, Carol Ann's little, "They're here," it's a classic. I think this would be a great one to watch on Halloween night. And after all your guests leave and you clean up all their nastiness, you could just walk down the stairs. "This house is clean," and go to bed. This list wouldn't be right without having a movie that really just gives you chills. Just terrifying. One of my favorite movies that I love to recommend no matter the time of year, no matter the event, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. This movie came out back in 2016, and I was late to this movie. Didn't watch it when it first came out. Watched it randomly on Netflix years later, and I was obsessed. I was hooked. I mean, this movie is terrifying. I mean, it's definitely one that you watch, and then like afterwards, I swear you're gonna be hearing little bells ringing all over your house. It's wild. So this movie follows this father and son who work in a morgue or a funeral home, and this body gets rolled in, and they're like, "Look, we really need like the autopsy on this body immediately because she's a Jane Doe, and there's this murder that nobody can figure out." They're like, "We need this ASAP." Father and son. Now the son, he's like kind of over the whole like morgue thing or whatever. He doesn't really want to do this with his life, even though it's the family business. Has a hot date, but decides, you know what, I should probably help my dad with this. I can go on my date later. And it's a spooky night, it's raining, and I mean, there are twists and turns and mysteries all over this movie. It is an absolute must-watch. Can't recommend it enough. I've honestly been thinking about doing a movie review. Like, I know this isn't a new movie or anything, but I really wanted to dive in and talk about this movie. So if you'd like to see a video where I do a review and like just a full-on dissection of The Autopsy of Jane Doe, leave a comment down below and let me know. Now, to me, I think both horror and Halloween, it goes hand in hand with comedy. I think my favorite genre of movies, TV shows, books, all of it is horror comedies. I love it. So here are some funny recommendations for Halloween night. One of my favorite movies of all time is Young Frankenstein. This is an amazing parody movie by Mel Brooks that kind of follows the story of the classic Frankenstein. It stars Gene Wilder, and Gene Wilder is amazing. Who does not love Gene Wilder? And he plays Dr. Frankenstein, bringing to life his monster, but it's just laughs. It's laughs at every scene. I love it. I'm constantly quoting it. An amazing movie. If you're looking for a funny zombie movie to watch on Halloween, I highly recommend The Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. This movie came out during Halloween back in 2015, and I remember going to see it on Halloween night, and it's hilarious. It follows these 3 Boy Scouts that are kind of getting older, and 2 of them are kind of like, okay, look, like we gotta stop doing the Boy Scout thing. Like, we're getting made fun of. Like, we're becoming adults. We can't do this anymore. And of course, there's the one friend that's still really into it, and that's the only reason they still do it. And during all of this, the zombie apocalypse breaks out, and it is wild. It is so funny, and it just gives me Halloween memories because I remember going to the theater to watch this with my friends on Halloween night. And a newer one on the list that's really fun to watch is Hubie Halloween, which is the Adam Sandler Netflix Halloween movie. Now this one's a little goofy, and a lot of people either seem to love or hate it, but First of all, I love Adam Sandler, and he of course brings all his usual suspects to the movie, and the vibes of this movie. I mean, it takes place in Halloween, in Salem. It's spooky, small town, coziness. What's not to love? Now, when I'm picking a Halloween movie, one of the things that I look for most is spooky atmosphere. I want creepy forests with the fog rolling over the ground. I mean, that's Halloween vibes. So of course, Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow is a perfect to watch on Halloween night. I mean, come on. It's Johnny Depp playing Ichabod Crane going to investigate the murders of the mysterious headless horseman played by Christopher Walken. I mean, that's just a recipe for something beautiful. And the set designs in this movie are some of Tim Burton's best, in my opinion. No Halloween movie recommendation list would be complete without my absolute favorite, the Universal Monsters. I mean, come on. The Universal Monsters invented horror movies and spooky atmospheres. Now, I first have to recommend Dracula, okay? You've got the spooky castle and Bela Lugosi as the vampire himself. And who hasn't heard a bunch of kids screaming in the streets on Halloween and recited, "Listen to them, the children of the night, what music they make." Another one of my favorites to watch on Halloween is Frankenstein. Frankenstein, come on, it's a classic. Again, we got a spooky little mansion, perfect. And what's more terrifying than a doctor who wants to create life, so he goes into the graveyard and digs up bodies and proceeds to stitch together from pieces of different bodies to create a monster. I mean, that's spooky. But my very last recommendation, and one of my favorite movies of all time, is the 1941 Wolfman. This movie has it all. This is the epitome of spooky atmosphere, okay? You have this man that comes back home because his brother has been killed, and he gets bit by a wolf and becomes a wolf himself. So we have creepy transformation scenes. We have the fog rolling over the ground in the forest. And even though this one is my favorite, and I did say this was gonna be the last recommendation, I would also recommend the 2010 remake of this movie. I know a lot of people hate on it because it's not what they wanted in new Universal Monsters, but again, the atmosphere is the perfect spooky atmosphere. And Rick Baker's design of the Wolfman, although we got a little cheated on it, is beautiful. I mean, it's the perfect werewolf. And remember, even a man who is pure at heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane bloom and the autumn moon is bright. What are your favorite movies to watch on Halloween? Leave your recommendations below for a perfect spooky movie on All Hallows Eve. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hopefully got some ideas for movies to watch this Halloween. If you'd like to see more videos from us, definitely hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification bell so when new videos hit the channel, you'll be notified. And as always, thank you guys for watching and I'll catch you nerds later.